grids which are not connected to the main grid, that data would be a very small percentage.
Yeah, that is very small.
Less than 1% of fractions of
We work from Northern Regional Logistics Center, and the data was the presenters have shown basically it is a monthly energy met data in million units. And as I can see the figures from the data, they are the all grid related, grid connected data. One specific observation I would like to make in this regard is when you are making a model and doing the demand forecasting, basically it is the demand met during a certain period. And there are a lot of factors regarding the unserved demand. And these unserved demand factors vary from because of a number of considerations. For instance, if there is a particular, in a particular state, suppose it's an election period and all that, the unserved demand would change. Because of sometimes the unserved demand will change because of any other reason. Then another very important factor is about the temperature conditions. What is the weather and all that. Like for instance, in last summer, the weather for last 2 months, 3 months, since the weather is not so bad, the demand factor has altogether changed. So while working out a model on the local factors as well as on the weather conditions, this particular factor has to be incorporated. Only then we can work out the accurate demand forecasting. And maybe one can work out the demand forecasting for a long duration, but again it has to be changed, it has to be continuously updated as we reach closer to the particular time. Only then it can give us better forecast for a particular.
Very rightly identified, and I would just like to add that the model usually does two operations. One is de-trending and another is de-seasonalizing. So whatever reference that comes out after de-trending and de-seasonalizing is a white noise process, and it helps, that white noise is the final model which helps in predicting short-term basis, that is weekly or monthly or daily forecast. And what you have said is very right, that weather plays a very important role in the demand that is supposed to come up. Uncertainty is definitely there.
In fact, in our country, lot of work is required to be done on the accurate weather forecasting and all those things. Still that IMD, of course, lot of information is available, but how best it is to be used and all that is a factor. And that can definitely make the demand estimation to the accuracy.
Just to add to the same point, I think that what we need to keep the demand when you're doing short-term forecasting, we need to keep a very short-term period so that the other issues do not take over. Then otherwise you have to do a long-term forecast, which is basically like a regression model and all. So maybe the two approaches have to be complemented with each other.
War technique, in this war technique, temperature and all other factors are also considered.
Yes. The war is for the long term, but the thing is you short-term you have art, garden, and vary. But it has to be very short-term so that the other factors do not start dominating.
We have now the power exchange, which is the day ahead market. So a decision needs to be taken to buy some power between 10 and 12 of the day for the next day. So at least from ETC side, we sent to our clients that yesterday what was your demand, in the sense that what was the power available from the central allocation and how much you have overdrawn or underdrawn. We also tell them that what is the weather like from IMD of the region, of the country, of the state, and few important towns of your state. Then another important thing is the availability of transmission lines. How much power can flow or if there is any constraint. What are the central sector power plants which are out of bar, so you will get less power. And the important thing what you were telling was again the weather forecast, because tomorrow's weather will depend upon whether it is going to rain or what is the temperature. So it's on the day-ahead basis, but certainly this is one area which needs to be worked and more accurate results are available with the state utilities so that they can start. Another thing is kindly make sure while making presentation that JNK is shown right. In the map shown in the pump storage, the India map was not correct. This is
That's all.
Another question. Just on this demand forecast, I mean, some
presentation. My name is Vijay Sirse. I'm CEO of Lead University, Singapore, and Lead Sure. Demand forecasting is a very important and very complex problem. And one of the things which is, especially in Indian condition, it's very difficult to do a demand forecast accurately because when 80% of the power sector is controlled by utilities of the government to do indiscriminate load shedding. How do you really forecast a demand in a suppressed demand scenario? That's one of the fundamental problems we have in India about a realistic demand forecast. When the utilities resort to a cheap way of demand suppression of load shedding rather than meeting the service obligations of supply and power. Number one. Number two is that the demand forecasting tool which is being done at your level as an academic institution. I think it's very important to see how this can be used in a real-time industry environment. And who are the users of this? The users of this product are the power utilities, the distribution companies. They need to know on a day-ahead basis, or on a week-ahead basis, or on a month-ahead basis, what is the demand forecast expected. And for them, what is the data coming from? The data is basically their own customers' meter data. It's not from the CA published data, it's not from any third-party service. It is from the utilities data acquisition, which is actually the real data that needs to be factored in demand forecasting for that specific utility. And a lot of things what happens is that we have seen in our experience of energy management solutions which we implemented for certain utilities is that most of the times the meter data does not come in because of the communication failure or because of something, the infrastructure problem. So there has to be a mechanism in your demand forecast for a system called VEE data, which is verification edit and establish data report. So that if there is any data which is missing from meter for the customer, that needs to be established or based upon the past performance or the past trend, so that there is no gap in the data which is being established as a forecast in your model. So these are some of the suggestions. I think most important thing, sir, is that his effort is commendable. But it just needs to be tailored and taken further for specific applications at the utility level and not just make it as an academic exercise.
And just to add to that, I think the main issue becomes the utilities are willing to share the data because this is an academic institution. At times, the data is very strategic. They may not want to share the data. But we are, the technique is available. Once they learn, these people, they are going to go to those places only. And they are going to add to the knowledge. So effectively, we are teaching a technique and if they can use it in any context, they go. But if somebody comes to approach to us, we are open to idea or kind of helping them out and telling them the latest techniques, and maybe we have this demand forecasting MTP 3 days where they can come and learn the technique, learn the software, and then can possibly have their own software and do it. Because for them, technique knowing is more important, and how do they use it up to them.
I mean, we are very fortunate to have the member commission here from the DSCN. Madam, you remember the last time we had a discussion on this issue, is that if you look at the power exchange data last 6 months, both EXIL as well as IEX, almost like 2,000 to 1,500 megawatt goes uncontracted, even at a very low power price. But why so? Then what sort of a demand forecast will have in any case? Because when a power surplus capacity is available, and we talk about some shortage of power, but the wind capacity in the exchange does not get bought by the utilities. I mean, that effectively means that the people are resorting to artificial load shedding. So all of these tools, which are really important tools of demand forecasting, but the utility also, the power sector, the utility also has to perform or behave in a way, and that's where the regulatory commissions come in the picture to enforce certain disciplines, so that all these academic exercises of the demand forecast ultimately get dovetailed into a demand forecasting and utilization at the utility level. I mean, this is a good exercise, but I think we have a regulatory middle.
Delhi, we have mandated that the load shedding should not be more than 1% of the total energy cost. So utilities do not have to resort to load shedding. They have to bypass that. They cannot do more than 1%.
Actually, that's a lot of things which I think are not clear to the demand. The data that is supplied or made supplied by CA is not their own data. It's the data which is supplied by the state themselves. So there's no difference in the data which is supplied by which the state makes available which CA does. The other thing is, I think there are two types of data. One is the demand met for the energy consumption. The other is the unrestricted energy requirement. I don't know which figures you've taken. So you should take the unrestricted energy requirement as a figure because both figures are available in CA. That includes the load shedding, power cuts, and everything else. Of course, sometimes what happens is some of the states do not give these figures accurately, so that may create a little bit of problem. But there is a figure of unrestricted requirement which includes everything. So, and the other thing is that in the, I believe we are not seeing the, we are not fully aware of the fact that what you said was that nobody does demand forecasting. That's not the case. Demand forecasting is done by all states and by CA. On all states do it on a monthly head basis, which is there's an operation coordination committee meeting. It takes place in each month in each region, where the states forecast the demand for next month and how much shortage there is expected to be in the next month. That is already there. Okay, and the year ahead forecasting is again done by the states on a monthly basis. And this is compiled by CA in the form of a load generation balance report. That is the forecast again. That talks about unrestricted requirement and also the megawatt peak demand for the each month for the next year. So these things are already done. It's not that they're not done. Only thing is it could be refined a little bit. That's what I was saying. I mean, the error is quite significant. No, it's not significant. I mean, it's not significant. Because we were doing the load generation balance report, and the error was just about a percent. I mean, see, when we forecast shortage of 9.3%, it came out to 9.2%.
No, but I mean, sometimes the new techniques can actually make it.
Yeah, can make it better, provided the data is clean.
That's obviously there.
Yeah. So and that is also done on a scientific method. It's done on the basis of the past history for the last, I think, 6 or 8 years, giving the most weightage to the last year and lesser weightage as you go back. So it's done in scientific way, it's not done. So, I mean, if you are in the thick of the process, you will know all these things. You have to study a little more. You have to do some more study on that. Yeah. So
Can we move on to maybe another subject for one of the other subjects?
Yeah, any other issues?
And also, just a minute, there is already mandatory forecasting in the Indian Electricity Grid Code, which is there in which is already in force. So there it's not that it's not, the commissions have already mandated that forecasting has to be done.
Somewhere we need to talk about this forecasting of different people and how can they be made more and more refined. And data quality itself is a very big issue that needs to be sorted out.
There was another question, Mr. Bansal.
Yeah, but I was on the same subject.
So how do I solve something else? Application for the subsidy. And I'm just changing this
Just one second.
This interim report, I mean, the real challenge that we face in terms of carbon is really understanding the cost of carbon. So does it throw any light on the cost of carbon or just the interim piece on these books? Cost of carbon. I mean, what is the cost of carbon? We are all struggling to find out the cost.
They have mentioned that in the interim report they have not covered the cost related data details and they will be covering it in the final. That is what they have mentioned in this report.
Let me ask this also. There is he mentioned about the perform, achieve and claim scheme, which is there to which is done by the Bureau of Energy Efficiency, Ministry of Power, to reduce carbon emissions over a 3-year period, starting from 2011-12, 3 years have been given. So by 13-14, this has to be reduced by a certain percentage. And then I think 5 or 6 sectors which are going to identify. Power sector is a major sector for which they want, I mean, power sector contribution of reduction will be instead of 70% entirely. In fact, we made that report in the CRC. And we have, the cost is there. There is in the Energy Conservation Act, they have said that if somebody doesn't reduce the energy consumption then they have made, there's a million metric ton equivalent of oil energy equivalent for the carbon emissions which take place due to that extent. So you'll have to pay for the cost of that much oil which actually releases that much carbon emissions. You have to pay that if you do not comply by the thing. The first year I think it's a flat figure, 10 lakhs or something, and the next year it comes to how much you do, how much you're supposed to supply and you don't comply. And if you comply and you do better than that, then you are entitled to energy efficiency certificate. And the person who doesn't comply either buys these energy efficiency certificates or has to pay the penalty. That's all. You can see the BEW's website, Europe Energy Efficiency website. See the PAT scheme, perform achievement.
I was asking, you talked about the capacity building power sector, but whenever you talk to the distribution company, they will say that there is no tariff hike over a period of time. Yes, yes. So how they can really attract the best talent in the industry? How the best talent can be really attracted towards the power industry?
Yeah, by running the electric force in the station, or by showing that the power sector is not so bureaucratic that it looks outside.
I have a suggestion that, once the utilities recruit the talent, we come to MDI to improve or to enhance their.
The problem is
That's Professor Ashash's objective here today is to have more and more students on the course.
Can I clarify that, tariff hike is not required for attracting.
How much?
Overtime costs are passed through, so all the employee costs are passed through in a tariff.
So that's the answer. I think that's the answer. So regulators are right answer is
more people MDI trains will allow more people in this room to poach into utilities.
Actually, I have one point.
Regarding this human capacity building, during the presentation we heard technical manpower and lower science. What do you feel about the need of the people other than the technical in the power? For example, economists, regulators, law people, project managers. What do you think they are also required for
And rewards.
Yes, definitely it will be required there.
Because today if you see, especially in our country, the balance sheet of the power distribution companies, or otherwise also the overall power. So in fact, what do you feel? It is more they need engineering input or they need the input from the economics and the finance and the planners and the
But both are required, sir. In fact,
that was not covered.
at last, I say this is the technical or non-technical data. In spite of this, we require high-skilled managerial power managerial people who look into the project finance, environment clearance. They are the expertise in that area, which can help the power generating station to be installed and commissioned very fast.
Let me add to that. I think
In general,
I'm an economist, so I definitely look at.
I would just like to add one thing. We feel energy management is the job of engineers, but I feel energy management is not the job of engineers. 80% of the expense of a distribution company is power purchase, which is not a job of engineers. It's a purchase, it's a typical art. We have had a first session of forecasting, but forecasting is just 10% of the activity. The next is scheduling. The next is the power purchase. You have a demand of 1,000 megawatts. Should we schedule 10% lower or 10% higher? Because that will decide what will be the availability on that, what will be the UI on that day. That's what it is about. So what I mean to say, 80% of the expense is that side. Maybe 5% of the expense is because of the finance. Only 15% is O&M, which is negligible. So similarly, if you see, today, the planners in say US, The most of the governments, they are talking about the, how the industry to be revived. It's not to be industry to be revived by the distribution company, the role of the regulator. The most important, they are the one who are running the show. So these are the things I feel which is most important in terms of manpower also, in terms of this. In fact, we need some kind of trained people who understand the whole of the business process, because it's not the engineering business alone. This is my.
I think the most important thing is energy economics should be taught to the politicians.
Exactly.
They are the people who govern this in power and things like
You
that.
have said in flat part, I have said in slightly different.
So I have one associated question. I mean, you have today, generation, you have so many generating companies coming up. How do you address that capacity? I mean, that's the growth part. It's not just the cost part, but addressing the growth dimension. I mean, maybe a lot of these kind of people, which are the technical people, are required to address the growth dimension in terms of new power plants or expanding the networks, or even just the AT&C part, which is again addressing the loss dimensions. Right? How do you
No, that's very interesting that you use the word AT&C. In AT&C, of course, we always talk about the major component of commercial or theft. Is the theft a technical problem or a social problem?
There are three things I
We always try to address a social problem with the technology. Today in India, if we compare 20 years back, there were a lot of cases of dowry death. Now there's hardly. Why it has solved? It is not solved because of technology. It has solved because the women are more educated, they are more free, they have more power, and so it has got solved. Social problem can be solved only by social method. Technology can help, but that cannot be the ultimate solution. So this requires
I guess combination is required.
It's a combination. So that's the most important thing in terms of energy management or energy sector management, I would say. Because if I say absolutely electrical energy, then it is electrical engineering. Management talks a lot about it.
So it would be useful to have engineers and MBAs or economists. Have a blend of both.
Yes.
Madam,
Generally, I've seen
I
that,
feel something should be done by the specialist, and the specialist
No,
are
it's
required
of course
always.
required, but if you have a blend
And
of both,
if we have a mix of everything, then today we have a wonder. We have a lot of people who have a mixed
then
knowledge
would
about
be
it.
good,
But some of the things is really need, like our friend from Power, they talk about demand response. No, there are people who understand demand response, their repercussion. They require the people having a good knowledge of environment, good knowledge of economics, good knowledge of making the policies and so on. We also need out of the box, as I said in the addressing session, we also need the policymakers out of the box thinking, not the conventional thinking, forecasting buying. Okay, it's there, supply, it's not there, don't let it. That's it.
Can I just limit you to just two last questions?
Again, we'll have more questions on tea session because we
Yeah.
have extended tea session also. So this is kind of a drop tea.
Either the tea has to come inside or we have to.
Yeah. I think it's exciting discussion.
My name is Raj Kumar. Apologies for coming late.
No problem.
So, compliment some of the very key issues being brought out in the workshop. Number one, I would like to continue with the manpower issue. So, all the 5-year plans, consistently we achieved only 50% of what is planned. 11th plan also not going to be different. There are many reasons stated about is the equipment manufacturing capacity. Why not able to? A manpower shortage is one of the key elements even that area. Construction. We talk about main plant construction, people are not there. Balance of plant construction, people are not there. Now, Indian companies are going and recruiting people from Gulf back to India, they are offering better salaries for high pressure welders and all that from Dubai. Indian companies going and bringing them back, come and work. Pipelining people, we don't have people, we are getting them from China. So, 500,000 engineering graduates are being produced every year now. But how many of them are directly employable? If I am a power plant developer, how many of them I can straight away put them onto my plants? Courses need to be redesigned to accommodate that. In any developing economy or developed economy, if you look at it, there's a strong correlation between GDP and per capita power consumption. By and large, it is same. We, after 60 years, came to $1,000 GDP and almost somewhere near to 1,000, or our target is to make it 1,100 by next year per capita, 1,100 kilowatt hour per unit. And projection is that if we maintain this 8%, 9% growth rate, we'll go to some 4,000, 5,000 GDP by 2020. But per capita power consumption, if it doesn't go proportionally to that 4,000 or 5,000 limit, the whole GDP will be pulled back, remain somewhere at 2,000 levels only. For that, a large number of people, the commercial, the law expert, the regulators, they can follow later. That is not, we can import them, but the welders and the technicians who will actually work with hands, they need to be, their numbers, we cannot bring them from other countries. Our economy cannot afford that, so we need to produce them. So the large number of engineering colleges came up, but the number of ITIs, Industrial Training Institutes, it by and large remained the same in the last 20 years. Hardly any new came up in the country. Same polytechnics, by and large same. And engineering colleges need to redesign the courses, and also other skilled workers need to be. One example more I would like to quote. When this APDRP program was launched in 2008, India Electricity had a special session on APDRP. One estimate which I have told them that by thumb of rule, about 22 towns, 1450 towns were covered under that, and the number of consumers, about 100 million consumers get covered under the APDRP program. To do GIS for so many people, a consumer indexing and asset mapping exercise, to do that, 40,000 to 50,000 people who can handle that DGPS survey instruments are required. To do it in 18 months, which was contemplated, even not 18 months, let it be 2 years or 3 years, still we need 40 to 50,000 people. In India didn't have even 4,000 people. Even today, 2 years into APDRP, we don't have, and nobody came up even offering that services. It's a great business opportunity.
But I think this is probably
So they've extended it by 1 year and maybe another 1 year.
I think probably start off the next session by saying that this responsibility is not only with the government, it is not
Industry.
only
Industry.
Industry has to play a very
It didn't happen.
significant
Yeah.
role.
You look at when the airline industry was opened, there were so many people came with Air Hostess Training Academy. Many of them didn't get jobs. That's a different issue. But here in power sector, nobody is teaching people. There's only some government-owned power training institutes and all there which are still running.
We're trying, but that's not very successful.
For example, just as an example, I mean, I'm from Schneider Electric. We have electrician training centers. We have an objective of training 4,000 electricians next year. And we have 22 training centers around the country. So these kind of initiatives have to come from the industry, and we have to participate in the industry more and more, so that we don't have these capacity issues actually strangling the rest of the development process. So let me allow just one last question, and then we can
Break for tea, and then again we come back.
Ashish.
Coming to the human capital capacity building, I was referring to one of the slides indicating that the man versus megawatt ratio is decreasing. Is it due to including latest technology, or is it due to increase in the efficiency of the human capital?
Both by the latest technologies as well as the papers are aware for the energy system.
Can you decompose it? But we haven't gone to detail of what you're looking for.
No, it's a very good indicator actually. We never try to capture that.
Because I see that India happens to be a highly populated country, and if we can leverage on human capital, we can at least have this question answered, that how do we address most of the issues, and how can we grow the GDP by very high percentage. Because again, when we are putting in the we are putting in the capital in the economy, again it has to be properly managed by equally talented people. So whenever there is an increase in the efficiency, the leverage on the capital that is going in can be multiplied. So my basic question was to if you can segregate between the growth or increase in the efficiency of the manpower versus whether it was due to the technology or due to the increase in the efficiency, that would have been much more better.
This man-megawatt ratio is mainly for O&M of the system. This is not for construction. So it is mainly the increase in technology and lesser on account of increase in efficiency.
So the other, just to who will be the real, if you really take the resources, the companies, generation companies, they have to get some kind of value out of the report. One of the things we should think about is keeping the motivation of the ultimately, because all of you are very innovative, okay, new generation people, can you think about some kind of intrinsic or extrinsic award, the reward scheme, so that we can keep these people motivated? Because these people are doing day in and day out similar kind of work, and their motivation is huge for a variety of reasons. So keeping the motivation up and really cheering them up is a huge challenge for all of these companies. So one of the reports, or one of my expectations will be that these reports are good reports, excellent reports, but now we have to discuss about these, see that really the utility companies will be benefited by your technology costs. So if we just think about.
Let me add to that. I just kept a copy of the NDPL case which one of our faculty members done on the HR issue. I'm making it available, everybody can take a copy. So that gives you a deeper issue which you were talking about. I've just got one case which our own faculty has done together, and it's published internationally also. And maybe if anybody who's interested can take a copy.
Okay, so let me bring this session to a close.